In 2012, our economy grew by 1.3%, but jobs growth, 4%, outstripping GDP growth by a considerable amount. So it is not surprising that we ended up with negative productivity growth of 2.6%. Now, if we put it another way, we had a net increase of some 59,000 locals joining the workforce last year. Our economy generated 130,000 jobs. Obviously, the balance was filled by foreigners, amounting to about 70,000. So one way to look at this data is that we can actually afford to be more manpower efficient. In fact, I think we must be more manpower efficient. But to be sure, I think this is a happier problem than having too few jobs. We have a very low citizen unemployment rate of 3% in 2012. So let me recap. What is the labour market telling us within the context of the current economic restructuring? There are really two key points to note. First, I think we are in a good position to intensify our economic restructuring process and to reduce our reliance on foreign labour. We can, and I think we will afford, and we will forego some level of economic growth in pursuit of more economically sustainable productivity growth, and still be assured at the same time of good job opportunities for Singaporeans. There will be frictional unemployment, which is something we can do through retraining and so on, but I think we are in a good position. Secondly, we are also aware that in certain sectors, local workers are short in supply, especially for rank-and-file jobs. So therefore, it's not just reducing the dependence on foreign labour. We should seek to also restructure ourselves to be a manpower, leaner economy as well. There are several industries, and we have talked about it several times in the chambers, which have low productivity levels by global standards. And there's a need to push them to reduce labour intensity by tightening on the foreign workforce front. But that said, I think we are aware that there will be, as I mentioned earlier, structural unemployment, which is why we need to continue to upskill and retrain Singaporeans to make sure they remain competitive and to remain employable in the workforce. Madam Chair, let me start by sketching out my ministry's view on how we can develop and sustain a strong Singaporean core in our workforce. And we believe that one good way to do so really is through the generation of better jobs and the development of better workplaces for people. Why? Studies have shown that employees who are happier at their jobs tend to be more productive and motivated. I think this is something that member Mr. Lawrence Lian talked about earlier, and I fully concur with that. This means a few things. First, it means that we need to work hard at actually creating jobs that help Singaporeans fulfill their aspirations. But that's only one part of the story. And this part is important, the employers. They must develop more progressive workplaces through better leadership and HR practices. Why? Because this will enable Singaporeans to be not only fairly rewarded and to be able to balance work-life priorities if they so choose, but to be also better engaged, to be better looked after. Motivated employees are better employees. And Mr. Lawrence Lian spoke about this earlier, and I think this is something that we should emphasize. And while we can promote it, I think it's something that's also difficult to legislate. I think oftentimes, so what is the government doing to incentivize me to do that? I think this is where we will do as much as we can to encourage good positive practices, some through incentives, others through promotional means. But this is where, as a society, all of us must play a part. And this is about good management, and employers must seek to take this on board. But Singaporeans themselves also have to play their part. When we upgrade our skills to remain relevant and competitive, it isn't for its own sake, because we do operate in an increasingly globalized and competitive environment. It's not something that we can run away from. But this will also improve our own employability and enables us to be able to provide for our families. And this, in turn, keeps our economy vibrant, attractive, and in turn helps to generate even better jobs with better prospects for Singaporeans, and particularly, I think, for our children for the future. So it is a virtuous cycle, I think, that you can see that could be at work towards sustaining and strengthening better jobs and workplaces so that we can all together create a better Singapore for Singaporeans. Now, the business community has been asking for greater clarity when the great workforce tightening exercise will end. Well, let me highlight the three factors that the government will be monitoring while we manage the pace of this tightening. Firstly, we are watching very closely the growth rate of our foreign workforce. We want to slow the growth of the foreign workforce significantly during this decade so that its proportion does not increase significantly beyond the 1/3 ratio that we adopted in 2010. Last year, our foreign workforce grew by about 67,000, excluding foreign domestic workers. This is still too large. We have tightened our policies to bring it down. And we will be watching the numbers closely this year, sector by sector. Secondly, we studied the productivity growth of our overall economy and also looking at specific sectors to see how they're lagging behind international standards. As outlined in the report of the ESC, we hope to achieve productivity growth rate of about 2 to 3% per annum on average for this decade. We know that it is not easy, but it's something that we should strive for and we should try to work towards. But what is very clear is we do need to wean ourselves off this heavy reliance on manpower-driven growth and to raise the quality profile of the foreign workforce. Third, we continue to track the real wage growth of Singaporeans at all levels. I think this is something that all of us are concerned about, and we should track this closely. Our foreign workforce is meant to complement. It's not meant to substitute our local workforce. And I think we are also mindful that while there are benefits that come with it, there are also disamenities. We're mindful that the presence of a large pool of foreign workers who have lower reservation wages than locals actually could have a depressive effect on wages. By keeping the labour market tight, and I think trying to raise the cost of hiring foreign workers, I think that's one approach among several to try to make sure that the wage growth of Singaporeans would also improve over time. Now, if we are not able to meet these targets, then we will continue the tightening and restructuring approach.